Good morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. I hope that you and your loved ones are healthy and safe. My name is Olga Hakova. I'm an Associate Director at the Planning Council Global Energy Center. This week, I'm stepping in for our regular host, GC's Director, Randy Bell. Thank you all for joining us for EnergySource Innovation Stream, where we aim to highlight new technologies with the potential to reshape global energy system. Today, we'll be hearing from John Chappell, Director of Business Development for Energy Industries at BlockApps, who will discuss how BlockApps STRATO platform tracks and exchanges blockchain-backed carbon credits for buildings' energy usage. But before we get started, two administrative details. First, you can follow us on Twitter at AC Global Energy and use the hashtag InnovationStream. Second, after John's presentation, you can submit questions through the Q&A function on Zoom, and I'll try to get to as many of these as I can. If you're watching on another platform like YouTube, unfortunately, we can't take your questions. So please, let me welcome John to the Atlantic Council. John, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you and your family are doing well. I know that you're based in Houston. How are things there following Hurricane Laura?
Thanks, Olga. I appreciate it. Thanks to the Atlantic Council and the Global Energy Center. Things are good here. We were very fortunate, and the storm moved just to the east of us, and so we're fine, and we're all doing well, and just surviving the Houston summer. Lots of heat and lots of humidity.
Well, that's great to hear. A little bit of good news there. Wonderful. Well, if you want to share your presentation, John, we can go ahead and get started.
That'd be great. Thanks. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Today, we're going to kind of talk about some of the exciting things that we're doing with carbon credit management as it relates to tracking greenhouse gas emissions, as well as remediation. And we'll be doing that on a blockchain-based platform. So for those who may not be as familiar with what a blockchain platform is, I've got just a basic graphic here and to kind of help us get an understanding of what we're going to be talking about today. More traditional standard networks have a central agency, a central institution, a central database where everybody kind of just feeds in data to the one spot, and then everybody can participate and get that information. In contrast, a blockchain platform is a decentralized ledger where many copies of the information are kept all across the network or on nodes. This has a lot of advantages in that you now have a single source of truth. You have increased security through the cryptography pieces of blockchain, as well as a complete and immutable trail. So you always know what happened. And we'll be talking about a lot of these features as we kind of talk about what we're doing in this space today. And the other thing to kind of think about is when you think about a platform or blockchain, it'll sound like we're talking about database type concepts, but what's really happening is these things are happening much lower in the technology stack. So it's happening at a really base level, and which makes things very exciting and really brings a lot of uniqueness and efficiency to a blockchain platform. So let's jump right into some of the challenges around CO2 tracking. You kind of have three stages of tracking the CO2. It's the generation, what we're doing to remediate it, and then the retirement of that credit. Too oftentimes, some of the challenges of early systems have been what we call a double spend, is somebody both takes the credit for it in their doing, but then they also maybe try to sell it on a marketplace. And again, this is not necessarily a fraudulent work. It's just the way the tracking systems work. It doesn't account for when a credit's retired. We all talk, well, none of the challenges are, has the value been fully realized? What's the source of the CO2? What's that provenance? How was it calculated? Who exchanged it? Who owns it? And when and where did the credit come from? So what we need is a secure and very reliable way to track carbon credits. So one of the projects that we're working on takes advantage of some initiatives in New York City, specifically Local Law 97, where the city of New York has gone and researched their carbon footprint and decided, where their emissions are coming from. And they found that 46% of all their emissions of CO2 came from buildings. And so that's where they wanted to target first. So we partnered with Greenwatt. They are a technology company and really understand this space. And what they've done is they've put together a refrigerator-sized cogeneration unit that generates maybe about 7 kilowatts of power, as well as hot water. And so what it's designed to do is go in the mechanical room of any of these buildings, and it runs off a very highly efficient natural gas engine. And now it's able to generate all of the electricity for the common areas in the building, as well as provide the bulk of the building's hot water. This has a tremendous impact on the energy footprint, reducing energy costs. So there's a direct saving to the building owner by 20+%. It also comes in and allows them now to measure the building's performance in terms of emissions, both before and after the cogeneration unit was attached. So how does a blockchain come into this, and what are the advantages of that? Let me kind of show you a little bit how we have put this together. You can see in the top left is kind of where everything starts. That's the cogeneration unit. And our platform has the ability to very easily and talk to other networks, legacy systems, as well as Internet of Things devices. And in this case, we're taking advantage of that, and we're connecting directly to the different meters on the cogeneration unit, as well as the different meters associated with the building, their normal electricity meter, as well as others. And we're able to gather and collect the data directly. So one of the very unique things about the blockchain is, as things are added to it, it's added in a very secure way. If any of you guys are familiar with cryptocurrency, you'll hear a lot of people talk about a private key and a sender's public key. So these are electronic signatures that are out there, and that allow that that the information came from that person, or that it's you and you are that person getting the information back. In this case, the private key is actually the meter. The meter actually has its own private hash that allows us to know that information came from, where it came from, and then track it back to its source. Again, very important. So you can see that kind of in the digital signature example. So we collect all this information. Our partner does some proprietary calculations on that and calculates the savings. And those savings then are logged or are part of the audit trail. And again, all of these steps are verified by the different network parties. So the different nodes that are on the network all verify this information, and you get to what you call the immutable record of this. So stepping back a little bit and seeing what the bigger picture looks like, you can kind of see the bigger CO2 life cycle on the blockchain. So we're able to track the CO2 generation, the CO2 remediation. We collect all this information, as I mentioned, with keyed Internet of Things devices. Again, we're able to, whether it's the meter data, the emissions on the cogeneration unit, or the weather outside, all these things are able to come in and be verified on the blockchain. And then in this case, the plan is to actually generate a marketplace. So some buildings will have excess CO2 credits, if you will, beyond what their goal is for the new Local Law 97 and the reduction goals they have in place for the year 2025. And they may be able to sell some of those excess credits. Others may need additional credits. They may not be far enough along that where their building is meeting the guidelines, and so they can purchase those. And the nice thing about the blockchain is it keeps track of which credits are going towards the regulatory portion to meet the Local Law 97, and which ones are actually excess. Another amazing feature of Strato and a blockchain network is what we call the regulator view. In this case, you have the ability to allow whoever that regulator may be, in this case, probably the city, where they can come in and they can look at the network and they can track back the provenance and the information of everything that's happened from the very first data point to where that carbon credit was either retired or retired either through application to the city or sold to another individual. Again, you have this significant audit trail. Oftentimes I'm asked, what happens if you get a bad piece of data and you have this immutable record that can't be changed? We actually see that as an advantage because you can come in and add an updated information to it. And then you can also attach attestations or documentation to show why the original data point was in error and why this is the correct value. And again, an auditor now has that complete chain. So you don't just go in and fix the error and have no record of what the error was and why, but now you actually can see the error, you can see the how the error was fixed, and then you have all the supporting documentation as to why you had it. So again, the immutability of the blockchain just really provides an amazing way for us to keep the provenance in this. So let's talk a little bit more about why the blockchain really makes this an amazing project and why Greenwatt was an exciting partner to have. We talked about this is the immutable ledger. Everything is time-stamped. You have precise tracking of all the data, the readings, the retrofit activities, and everything that goes on. Another great feature of a blockchain network and Strato is the smart contract. You're now able to build in automated time-based events based on the data. You can, every month you can automatically send a report to the city. If there are invoices and purchase orders involved, you can automatically do reconciliations and initiate payments. In this situation, a lot of the maintenance data is also tracked on the blockchain. So for the customers, so when they get what I guess the version of the would be a check engine light, maybe like we have in our automobiles, the smart contract would initiate a service call and some diagnostic things. So any number of things can be automated, again, at the very base, very bottom of that technology stack. We talked about consensus and validation. The regulators can validate and approve the CO2 data readings and activities on that. And then another amazing thing about Strato and the blockchain network is the granularity with which you can give access to the data and then communicate with other people on the network. You can share it across the entire network, or you can set up what we call a private chain and very securely share data with just one other party. And you can access all that control. We talked about the significance of the API at the core. That's really one of the things that drives the Strato platform, and being able to add Internet of Things data, as well as getting information from legacy systems or from outside sources. And then ultimately, it's very simple. All the work has been done. A developer can quite easily build an application on top of a blockchain network and take advantage of all these things. So we often say that there's no code or very limited blockchain knowledge required in order to take advantage and leverage all of these amazing features. So this is kind of where the CO2 tracking starts. This is one of our current projects. It's a little bit delayed because of the shutdown in New York City, but they're back open now, and more of these cogeneration units are being installed, and the network is built out. The hope here is, as the network gets up and running, to add other vendors with their technologies that also can reduce the CO2 footprint. Maybe it's an LED light bulb, maybe it's a smart meter. new windows, whatever that might be, that can come in and really reduce the carbon footprint of that building. The next thing that that we're doing in terms of in this space is really taking it to that next level and looking at starting a consortium or a network that has some of the basics of CO2 tracking built in, and then allow different parties, whether it's a singular party from the oil and gas world, or maybe one of my colleagues is focused on the agricultural world, and they even have some initiatives where they're going to drive down the CO2 in their business. And so again, you can think about the things that we've talked about, and you can apply it across the traditional oil and gas world, whether it's downstream and refining, it's the transferring of products or production. You can now measure the CO2 emissions, and you can measure whatever you're doing to remediate it. And the operational and business intelligence component of this can't be overshadowed as well, is on many of our production customers who have the network going in production, they've seen tremendous business intelligence improvements go from maybe 50 to 55% to the mid 90s, because they have real-time access to their data. So we're very excited as we continue to grow our footprint in the CO2 and some of the things that that we're doing in this space to continue to go on. Olga, that's really the highlights of what we wanted to do and wanted to share today. I'm going to pass it back over to you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, John. I want to remind everyone to type in your questions into the Q&A portion of the Zoom platform. You can just find that on the bottom of your Zoom screen. I know we already have several questions coming in, but I want to start off with one question that I have for you regarding energy efficiency in blockchain. We know that energy efficiency is one of the most underutilized resources to cut carbon emissions as well as waste in the energy systems. One of the challenges in implementing large-scale efficiency measures is often imperfect information of the performance of different technologies, whether it's buildings or other energy systems, and also tracking energy savings from the different systems. Could blockchain help with filling this information gap and perhaps even leading to greater energy efficiency investments?
Yes, simple answer is yes. And one of the nice things that a blockchain does, especially when you're trying to gather information from multiple systems in multiple places, whether it's stuff on a spreadsheet or built in to an Oracle ERP, is blockchain through the use of smart contracts really allows all that data to be reconciled and matched. And again, that happens at the very core platform level, which is a very unique thing. So you have this reliability that the data you're getting has been pre-reconciled, and it's good data. The bad stuff is flagged very easily. And so you can make much better business decisions, whether that's in one of our cases, one of our customers traditionally had done overproduction. And now that they have this better information, they're able to actually reduce that overproduction in half. And so there's an energy savings there. There's a waste that's no longer generated. And those type of examples just go on and on. We have others that struggle with asset management across different regions. And again, the blockchain network allows those regions to now talk in a common language and match up those different systems and eliminate the need for double spends and buying and loss of assets.
Got it. I have another question for you. You mentioned this really briefly in one of your slides, but I'm curious to learn more. We're seeing a surge in oil and gas companies voluntarily committing to various carbon reduction goals. Some are aiming for carbon neutrality, while others have a goal to reduce emissions by a certain percentage by a specific year. What role can blockchain can play in helping these companies track the progress and also ensure transparency for customers and shareholders? And I know that you touched on this already, but I offer you to extend on this.
No. That's a great question, Olga. And it's a big part of what I do day in and day out. In many of the meetings that I've had with anywhere from the mid-size oil and gas companies to the global majors that we all know about, is one of the challenges that they have is they have these initiatives that they're doing for all the right reasons, sustainability and our futures, but they struggle with how to collect the data because they have so many departments across so many countries. And when they talk about a monthly or quarterly roll-up, somebody is literally trying to match up hundreds of Excel spreadsheets and get the information. And oftentimes the provenance is not there, where the data come from. All they got was a 15. Why 15 or whatever? And I've been told that certain companies will take the rolled up data and then actually reduce the number they report out just because they don't have confidence in that number. What the blockchain allows us to do is really to create that audit trail from the very, very beginning to collect where was it generated, how much was generated, what did you do to remediate it, where did it come from, what's that chain of custody. Just imagine, a barrel of oil going 10 miles down a pipeline. The one person puts it in, somebody else gets it out. So there's a transfer of ownership. You can keep all that trail going. And so the blockchain, I think, is going to be a critical tool for the oil and gas companies that they meet their commitments for sustainability and their carbon footprint reduction going forward.
Excellent. All right, we're going to switch to questions from the audience. One of the questions asks, how are encrypted keys exchanged? Does the sender and receiver share the same app software that automatically generates a password? If the sender creates a code for the encrypted key, then how does the receiver obtain the key without compromising the password?
No, great question. Kind of some of the nuts and bolts around the blockchain stuff. So when you have your login, and again, one of the nice things about the blockchain technology is once the application is set up, all of this stuff is actually really transparent to the user. It would look like any other web-based, cloud-based application to you. As a person, you would do your single sign-on at your company, whatever your password credentials are. And then those private keys are kept on the blockchain, and this used to validate the public keys get transferred across the nodes. So it's very secure in that regard. But all that stuff happens, kind of in the plumbing, if you will, behind the scenes. But again, the really amazing thing is those keys then let us know who logged on. They let us know what information they put and where. Those private keys allow, maybe you have an attestation about a carbon credit, but it's very proprietary. So you can put that attestation on the network, but then you can lock it with your key and only unlock it if somebody wanted to see it. So they would know that there's an attestation there, but they would not know what it is. So hopefully I answered that. Our product guys would be much better about getting in the weeds about how that actually works.
Thank you so much. So my next question, we're going to zoom out to talk about carbon credits on a global scale. EU's emission trading system, ETS is what it's known as, is the world's largest carbon market right now. It makes up about 80% of the global trading volume. As EU is developing its carbon border adjustment mechanism, could blockchain play a role in helping companies accurately and effectively track the carbon intensity of the products that they're exporting to the EU? Now, keeping in mind that this is still early and we don't really know right now which products will and will not be included into EU's border tax.
No, absolutely. The blockchain network, again, for all some of the things I've been talking about, allows you to perform those attestations, allows you to do through smart contract, whatever your proprietary calculations are, however you want to calculate the carbon intensity of your particular product, you can do those things. And then again, you can attach those attestations all along from whenever you started the process with, maybe you're in a polyethylene plant. And so whatever your raw material ethylene coming in is, to whatever your final plastics is coming out, you can measure the overall footprint of your plant and you can do those calculations and do that. And the nice thing is anyone that you allow that has access to the network can now come and see that entire provenance. And see where it comes from. So again, all this happens not I mean, at the very core of the platform, which is very low in the technology stack and just provides that extra efficiency in translation. So there's a lot of opportunity to do that with the EU. There are also a number of organizations out there that verify your work, that you really are doing something. And so we've been in touch with several of those. Vera comes to mind as one of them, but there are any number of them. And so we've made sure that as we've designed the smart contracts in the blockchain, that they would comply. So in this case, if the network we've developed in New York City, if they wanted to make it Vera compliant, we have those pieces in place. We would undergo an audit, and then they would give us that stamp of approval, which then would allow you to then to network with, whether it's ETS or the Western Climate Initiative, or any of the other different marketplaces that are out there, because you now have a verified carbon credit, if you will.
Thank you, John. So we have another question from the audience. So you mentioned that blockchain ledgers bridge gaps between legacy systems and platforms. So this participant is wondering about sharing the information over foreign languages. Does it involve fixed cost, such as time or fees? What does it take to get all of the systems on the same ledger?
No, that's just a function of development. As you set up the distributed ledger, you can put them in a single cloud network in a single region. You can put it in a single, you could put it on a single cloud across different regions. We even have developed networks that are across multiple clouds in multiple countries. So maybe Alibaba over in the East, and AWS here in the States, but running each of them have certain nodes and that. And then the language portion is just a function of the user interface. So if you want complete security, some people, especially in the finance industry, really want their networks on premise. So they have their network now just on their computers inside their own network, and don't leverage the cloud at all.
Excellent. For our final question, I want to look back into talking about how this can help different companies. And let's talk about smaller companies, because sometimes they might not have designated departments or the resources to do the tracking. How does blockchain answer those questions for the companies without the resources of larger oil and gas companies?
No, that's an excellent question. And I kind of touched on it briefly, but I want to go back, is that one of the things that that we're doing is we have a partner network or a consortium network. And one of the things that we're working on setting up is one for CO2 tracking. So a lot of the heavy lifting is done now. And then the smaller company who wants to implement has a very low cost and a low effort in order to join this broader network. And maybe we do one for oil and gas only, and anybody can join. Maybe we have an agricultural one, but that's what the blockchain really allows you to do. And that's when the blockchain really hits its stride, is when you have these different members come on and really begin to leverage their experience and their different businesses across the network. And that's really when the blockchain really shines. And we've seen that in our customers who started a network for a very specific reason, and it was wonderful and it worked for them. But as it's matured over a couple of years, and now they have dozens and dozens of partners on it, it really does amazing things for them.
Excellent. Okay, so I actually do have another really excellent question. So if we can squeeze it in with a 30-second answer, it'll be great. How could this be extended to fleet vehicles for the companies that are using the trucking industry to deliver products to the end retailer and consumers and retailers?
Actually, very, very easily. You can come in and either through mobile applications, or some of the fleets that I know about have a number of IoT devices on the actual trucks. You can put that information on the network. You can track what their emissions are, how often they're filling up, loads and impact. You include maintenance records, and again, you can see the impact very quickly of that. And so it's just a beautiful thing, and it can reconcile it back to the manufacturer all the way down to the retail person.
Excellent. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and especially John for your engaging presentation. Make sure to connect with John on LinkedIn, and you can also follow the company on Twitter at BlockApps. This presentation will also be available on the Planning Council website, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Please make sure to share it with your colleagues. I'd like to thank Randy Bell, Zainab Baranin, Roger Morales, and Jasper Giraldi for making today's event happen. I hope you all will join us for the next production of Innovation Stream on September 10th at 2:30 p.m. with Jeff Urich, President and Chief Executive Officer of Novomer, who will discuss production of low-cost, carbon-neutral polymers from sustainable feedstock. Also, please join us for an event on operational energy across the Atlantic, U.S. military and NATO perspective on September 15th at 3 p.m. You can register for both of those events on the Planning Council website. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Stay safe, wear a mask, and we'll see you next time at EnergySource Innovation Stream.